if I knew what I knew today, and I never live in the past, because you can't change that naturally. What you can change is today, now, and tomorrow. So, however, said with a positive mindset, if I knew what I knew today, but only 15 years ago, let's say, oh, well, it's beyond thinking, because there's so much you can do within property if you apply creativity.
What's up, lovely people? Welcome back to another video right here on Entrepreneur Podcast Hub. I'm your host, Mr. EPC. Give big, massive round of applause to my very special guest, Aamana. So, welcome to the show first and foremost, and thank you very much for your time. So,
Thank you.
No problem. So, do you just want to tell the viewers a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Aamana Anwar. I live in Birmingham. I was born down south, raised in Yorkshire, married into Birmingham. So I've travelled along, I suppose, the M1 from birth. I've now lived in Birmingham 21 years and 2 weeks. So it is a fantastic place to be. Yeah, so that's me.
Okay, fantastic. So, do you just want to tell the viewers a bit about what you currently do in terms of property?
I actually don't have a job. I know that sounds really bizarre. I'm completely jobless, because what I do with property, I don't look at it as a job. It gets me out of bed in terms of how passionate I am for property. I always have been. I think it was in my bloodline. And yeah, so day to day, there's never like an off day. I am workaholic, and I love what I do with property. I've got myself involved. I think it's now, gosh, let me just in my head work out how old I am. So over 25 years.
Yeah, you don't look a day over 21.
Is that go ahead? And I just love what I do, and I just stay involved, keep doing what I need to do in terms of goal aspirations, and yeah, just I absolutely love what I do. I could talk about property all day, generally speaking. I honestly don't look at it as a job. I don't think I do it full time, but there's sometimes I feel I do 2 full-time jobs as such, working in property. Depends on the workload as and when. Being workaholic, some can say I don't work smartly, but I believe somewhat I do. It's just I love what I do. So yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So in terms of property, there's multiple different strategies. So what is your strategy that you're doing?
Currently I'm spending a lot of time with developments. So it can be anything, like I'm looking at units of minimum 1 right up to 30 reasonably. And it could be like a commercial unit, like old offices that I could be looking to convert to residential units, albeit ASTs, so like 1 bed, 2 beds, or even HMO units, or even service accommodation. Depends on the location, obviously. I look at things like land without planning, where I can agree a deal as a lease option potentially. And sort of I'm actually on this podcast, I was on the phone to a potential vendor, off-market deal with land, trying to secure that in Solihull, and where I could potentially gain full planning for residential units, and then just sell the land on with the gain of the uplift. Other things I look at are just general buildings, even houses, like houses that really need doing up. It could be an easy fix with, full refurb, remodeling inside, and essentially just selling it on with a view to make a profit. So there's also, and I think the key thing to do that, to understand what you're looking at, as opposed to just looking at something completely blank, is education. Always stay tuned with legislation, stay tuned with, keep on getting yourself in the education mode. I'm a huge advocate for education, whether it's general schooling, further education, higher education, even work education, like within property, to understand the strategies. I mean, if I knew what I knew today, and I never live in the past, because you can't change that naturally. What you can change is today, now, and tomorrow. So, however, said with a positive mindset, if I knew what I knew today, but only 15 years ago, let's say, it's beyond thinking, because there's so much you can do within property if you apply creativity. And within those creative tools, they get you to do things within property, whether it's development strategy or not. And you can have that mindset whereby if you look at a project potentially, and not have a pigeonhole of a mindset, always think outside the box. I suppose that's what I'm saying. And think, well, okay, I can smell opportunity, I can see opportunity, what can I do? And then when you follow through that particular project, that particular opportunity, I look at it in a way whereby, okay, this is my exit A and this is my exit B. And sometimes I look at exit C, but predominantly I always look at A and B, because should anything go wrong, I can then quickly move on to exit B, in terms of what I want to do with this property. So it's very, very important to stay educated. And even if you go to the same session or same subject workshop, is fine. It's actually, you're just reconfirming what you perhaps already know, but what you also might have missed. Because when you're in a classroom as such learning, you can easily miss a key nugget or a certain point that was mentioned whilst you're writing down your notes. And I always think of the Casino Royale movie, the James Bond movie, because I've probably watched that movie at least a dozen times. And each time I watch this movie, I always think that, there's a part for a split second, I did not watch that before. Where's that come from? And maybe you get distracted with making tea, eating popcorn, whatever it is, whilst you're watching that movie. You watch the movie again and you pick up another part. And I use that analogy with education. So if you're going into, let's say, a HMO workshop, like recently I did, and you go again and you go again, or you revisit your notes, or you watch the videos, sound a bit ancient saying videos, you pick up on the knowledge. And it's so important to be in that surrounding, and have that willingness to learn, because you will always, but even though knowledge is power, which is great, you need to understand yourself, why you do property. I mean, I know why I do property, the passion aside, but you've also got to remain focused on the strategies that you choose to do, because what you do not want to find is you're scattering your mindset, your times with strategy A, B, C, D, and so forth, because you'll never take action. So as much as, yes, knowledge is power, but I think what's even greater than that is taking action is even more powerful. Now, I'm very quiet what I do on social media. I don't really utilize social media. Perhaps I could, but that's not my drive. Having said that, I love networking, and as I've got older, I like to think I've become wiser. So I kind of like pinpoint a certain networking sessions I attend, which are specific to what I need as well. as opposed to just wasting time networking foolishly. So I like to think I tread on that very smartly. So when I'm networking, I'm meeting people, because there's personal development involved as well as making new contacts as well. And it's always great to hear other people's stories and their wealth of knowledge as well, because you're always forever learning. And I love that. I absolutely love doing that, because it's in itself, there's like a huge library. But as I say, it goes back to taking action. You must take action. And as long as you know what you've got clarity on your strategy, keep tuned with the education side of things, but take action, because with persistency, there's a lot of rubbish days everyone has, and that's human nature. But you'll have some good days as well, a lot of good days, and just keep pushing and being persistent. And there's times where sometimes things don't go well in a particular day or a particular week. You just park that negativity and say, okay, let's find a solution, because the negativity will not give you solutions. The positivity mindset will give you the solutions. And again, another analogy, I literally sometimes, when it gets a bit too much for whatever reason, whether it's directly work related or personal life related or being a mother related, I will literally shut down that laptop and reset, whether it's starting again the next day or taking another 2 days out, and just literally, let's say, right, let's do this kind of attitude. Like I've always taught my daughter, the 3 sentences: I will, I must, I can. I always have this thing in my head that where there's a will, there's always a way. And there's always a way. You just have to find that way and keep digging and keep digging. And being an 80s music girl, I always go back to Yaz. I don't know how old you are. I'm sure you're much younger than I am. There's a tune by Yaz from the late 80s, and oh gosh, my mind's gone blank. And and the song title is something like my mind's gone blank, but it's like a good myth in terms of like promoting mindset. And I always have said to my own daughter, and she's just started sixth form today actually, and I've always said, why do we fall? We fall because we're going to get ourselves back up again. So it's okay to fall. Yeah, the difference is that if you fall and you don't get yourself back up again, that's a different matter. But let's just deal, it's okay to fall. And I can't remember the title, but there's a song title from Yaz from the 80s, but I always think of that tune, and I'm sure you're going to YouTube what I'm talking about, but it's really great. So yeah, so education is important. The strategies I work with is predominantly developments, but in the background I run service accommodation as well. And it's really good because with the development sides, when there's units that I'm looking at to consider, knowing how HMOs and service accommodation works, I can kind of like stack deals with that mindset, knowing that where I can actually make a profit potentially, or it's whether it's profit or rental income. So yeah, so that's why I always firmly believe that you've got to invest in your education. It's not cheap. There are some learning providers out there who do give free education, but you're not going to get the crunch. So be willing to, where you can. If money is the obstacle at start, that's all right. But there's some genuine people who have YouTube videos, and you can learn through the YouTube videos as well as through networking, asking questions, listening, and you will learn. And if you rub shoulders with the right people, there's no reason why you cannot learn and progress, as long as you have the willingness to do so. So yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So you mentioned there about education, which is 100% true. So do you currently have a mentor who's mentoring you in terms of what you're doing, your strategy around
I do, yes, I do. The main one in Birmingham is Saj Hussain. So I'm part of Saj's inner circle, and what Saj provides is priceless, to be honest. I recently renewed my membership. I think it was 1st July, and he has a lot of knowledge himself. And I find Saj that it doesn't it's black and white and it's straightforward. It doesn't wrap it up with cotton wool. It basically doesn't chat BS. And the support with the Zoom calls that we have every single day bar Friday, people who he's actually working for, who he's actually collaborated with, we've got mindset coaching, we've got Ian, about planning, which is amazing. We've got HMO, service accommodation, supported housing, social housing, and Saj himself. So if you've got any questions, you can throw them out and literally have them answered. And if he doesn't know the answer, but very rarely he doesn't have the answers, which is great. And all the sort of the format, how that program is run is amazing, because you cannot not do, and because you are held accountable, you're accountable for yourself, because you've got to ask yourself, why are you investing in this program? And if you're not taking action, then more fool you. But should you be taking action, which everyone should be, you will have questions that need answering. And the program, with other people, with other members on board as part of the inner circle, is so valuable, because you're not just learning from the collaborations and Saj himself. You've got other members there, and it doesn't really matter what level everyone is at. There will be always questions and answers that you will learn from, and I'd like to think other people learn from me as well. So yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So you mentioned previously about networking as well. So you mentioned there's a lot of importance of networking. So what are the types of networking events that you go to?
So I do a lot of property networking. So I go to Saj Hussein's Property Meet, which is the 3rd Tuesday of every month. And what I like about that, he actually runs it in August and December. I'm not too sure about December. I think he does, but I can't remember. But definitely August, whereas everyone takes a break in August and December. I also go to the Developers Network in Birmingham, TDN for short. And I also go to Baker Street, which is down south, obviously. And it's run by Andrew Roberts and also Ranjan Bhattacharya. And the reason I do that, Baker Street is a bit of a nightmare to get to, but I'm committed to do that because, as I said earlier, I want to be in an environment where I'm going to be learning all the time, and it's just a buzz, where you're meeting new people. So there's no point meeting people who you already know. Yeah, of course, don't be dismissive. Say hello, bye, what have you. Be nice and polite, but you're there to meet new people, and the more you meet, the more new faces you meet. You don't know where you're going to generate your partnerships with or from. I've had a couple of JVs that I've done from down south, from Baker Street, which is amazing. So it's always good to meet. And as I said, it's not just about yourself, it's about what you can give back as well. There's a lot of artificial individuals who like to keep everything close to their chest, which I think is very selfish motive. You don't know. It's like they say, when you smile, you can be making someone's day. So what harm is it by sharing what you know? If someone's asked me a question, if I don't know it, fair enough. I'm really sorry, and you just refer them to someone else, who could potentially help them. But if you know the answer, don't hold it back. Just help them out with what you genuinely think is the right answer, and that goes a long way with that other person on the other side. And that's partly what networking is about, is building relationships, and that's where partnerships and business is made, for sure.
Yeah, okay, that's really powerful, especially like making someone's day as well, because we're gonna die one day, so those are the things that people will remember. your nice attributes, how you treated people, etc. So that's really powerful
Yeah.
what you mentioned that. So
Mm.
let's talk about how long you've been in property for.
So I when I came out of university, um, B Nation, living at home. I think, did I have a mobile phone? I do not even remember if I had a mobile phone. Let's say I had a mobile phone, 20, £25 line rental, whatever it was, at that time, and car insurance. So my point of mentioning that those were the only two main costs after net pay. So working as an accountant at the time, a trainee accountant, um, what else have I got to pay for? So this money is just building up my net pay in my bank account. And I was on a handsome salary at the time, um, coming out of university, living at home, not married. What else is there to do? So it was in my bloodline for sure. Both my parents are in business, were in business, still in business. And so so I had to think about what I'm going to do with this money. I had this itch, and it just came to me. General tradition is that you go out and buy a house and buy to let and rent it out. But my first property itch was an auction property. I cannot remember if it was a probate, but let's say it was not a probate. Um, and I went to an auction with my younger brother to Winkworth auctions down south. And I remember it was literally this time, back in, I think it was 1999 or 2000. I cannot remember. I'd have to look at the paperwork because I've still got the paperwork. Um, and we went to the auction and won the bid. And it was like, wow. And the fact that I had money saved up from earning monthly salary, I could, just clear that money straight away, the purchase, and say, here you go. I think I must have paid them by check. I said, and just paid it, and that property now is mine. And then I think it was within a 6 month period, an opportunity came up literally on the same street, and the guy was an ambulance driver, an elderly guy. I don't know if he was volunteering, but he used to drive the ambulances, and he'd passed away. And sadly, he passed away. But the house came up for sale. The kids were wanting to sell. I think the daughter's name was Joanne. I don't know why I remember that. But so I thought, let's do this again. I don't think I gave him the asking price. I can't remember, but I know what I paid for it. I don't remember what the asking price was. I remember what I paid for it. And again, I was able to pay in cash in terms of what I've already saved up. So, and that was a probate deal. So it was amazing, two opportunities. Now I've got two properties. Now looking to do up. One was already finished, pretty much rented out. And the second one, it was a full refurb. And that's how it really started for me in property. And then I sat back and thought, let's do this again. And I wasn't really, the next stage of my life really should have been marriage. And I wasn't really interested at the time. I was really into making money from property. And I think I had a wake-up call when my mum spoke to me and said, look, it's great. You've got my full support, what you're doing, and your grandparents. But ask yourself, who are you doing it for? Where's the legacy? And that's when I started thinking about, it's great having this passion, drive, purchasing properties, but who am I actually doing this for? Because I'm not married, don't have children, but that journey started at that stage, and it was amazing. It was really, and everything happens for a reason, and yeah. So I've never really looked back, and I actually remember buying another one, as it happens, from an auction property, in a place called Leverage in Dewsbury. So yeah, it just grew and grew and grew. and I want
Okay.
it to grow further.
Okay, fantastic. So let's say someone's watching this and they're looking to get into property. What advice could you give them?
Um, yeah, it's a very good question because that was me once. Um, First of all, I would say attend networking events. If you want to get into property, attend property networking events. Ask questions, meet people. You'll get a feel of people who are genuine, who's not, and speak to those who have got the experience. And you will get a feel of who to speak to and what have you when you're rubbing shoulders. Education is a must, which is what I was emphasizing earlier. Um, get yourself understand what strategies are involved within property, because it's not just simple as buy and sell or buy and keep and rent it out. There's so much you can do, and then just understand, take a step back and see what floats your boat. And so, for example, if it's HMOs, learn about HMOs in detail, and as well as service accommodation, learn about service accommodation and take action. But as I said, stay in the groove, carry on learning, because legislation always changes. Like at the moment, we're looking at class 5 for service accommodation, and that's legislation is going to be ironed out pretty soon. So there's always things that are changing, even from the taxation point of view as well. So it's key that you're networking with the right people. How do you find that person is the right person? Carry on networking, build relations, because I tell you, someone can give you a lot of money to invest with yourself, but if you don't like that person, it doesn't mean anything, because you're there about building relations. And as the saying is, people buy people first, then they want to do business with you. So it's very important that you show your face regularly at networking events, and there's lots of opportunities within Birmingham or even nationally, so many opportunities in terms of networking events. But equally, get yourself educated and invest your money wisely. And if you don't have the money, that's fine. It's not the end of the day or end of the world. You can start up with sourcing. And whoever's listening may not understand what I'm talking about, but if you become a property sourcer, that effectively what that means is whilst you're networking, you're speaking to investors, trying to find out what they might be looking for, that you can perhaps go out there, or you can actually do it from home and find properties that fit their criteria. Because what you don't want to do as a sourcer, for example, is sit back and find properties and then go out and find investors, because the criteria of your properties might not match them. So find out from investors, the people who you meet at networking events, so it's all linked. What are their criteria, what are their requirements, and then go and find these properties, and you can sell them as long as the deal stacks. And what that basically means is the deal stacks, that the numbers work. I thought someone was going to hit me from the back then, the back of the car, that is. Anyhow, so yeah, and then if if you have very little money to invest in then you can actually, as I say, you can start off as a sourcer and make a percentage here, a percentage there, charge £1,000, £2,000, £3,000, or even more. The bigger the pie, the better you can actually earn. But always stay connected with education and carry on networking, and invest. Find yourself a mentor who you feel is genuine, and get yourself mentored, and keep yourself accountable, because you need to. It's very easy to switch off and get distracted. And one thing I find, I have recently heard people say, oh, so and so's done this, and it wasn't more from a property basis. It was a case of from a non-property, let's put it this way. And I said, well, why are you even comparing? You've got your own journey, and just concentrate on your own life. You know what you want to do, what you want to achieve, and put a plan of action in, and then work backwards. And it's okay, it's simply said, but it's your actions that are going to count. And ultimately, you should not compare, I suppose is what I'm saying. Do not compare yourself to anyone else. Be willing to learn from other people, but do not compare yourself, because everyone has their own path, and everyone has their own journey. So yeah.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. It's like if people are starting out today, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone chapter 30, because they're at one stage,
Yeah.
you're at chapter 1, but they're
I
a
like
lot.
the way you said chapter 1 and chapter 30.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
you spoke there about mentoring and getting the right education. And
Yeah.
on social media, there's a lot of people out there who could talk the
Mm.
talk, but are not walking the talk.
Yeah.
So they're not really doing property, but they're just selling courses. So,
Yeah. Yeah, there is that. There will always be haters. I'm not going to sit here and mention names of those who are hated, not by me,
yeah,
because I know who I've followed and listened to and learnt from. And but any particular person or mentor or trainer, should I say, there will always have people always have haters. Unfortunately, that's the way human race works, and it stinks. But you've got to be firm within yourself and understand what works for you. And if you're following the crowd, I don't think that's a great idea. Like, as a parent, I've always said to my daughter, sit at the front of the class. It's not showing off, helps you listening, and it helps your concentration. Sit at the front. To the point, over the years, I got her to do that. And I said, look, if you think you know the answer, even if it's wrong, it doesn't matter. Ask the question, because it's not just about knowing the answer. You're building that self-confidence, and that's how you will learn, whether it's your academia life or whether it's your personal development. And as I say earlier, she started her A levels today. So we've got 2 years of journey together with that. We've already, laid out over the summer her plans, where she wants to go in terms of career path and also academic level. And I said, right, okay, you want to go to this level in terms of your academia. This is how we're going to do it, to the point of we even chose, I say we because yes, it's her life, but I have influence on that. I'm not the type to say, I'm not forcing subjects down her whereby she might not be too keen to do. So it's a joint decision. And I said, you know where you want to be. So that's your end goal. Let's work backwards and work together with this, and choose your subjects wisely with your A levels. And then, God willing, once your 2-year program's finished, you go into an undergraduate program and you would go further. And let's do this. So, I always say to her, get behind the steering wheel, drive the vehicle. Don't look at the car in front when he's going to brake, when she's going to brake. Look at 2 cars or 3 cars in front, through that windscreen and their windscreen and so forth. The whole idea is stay focused, laser focused. And in theory, you should not go wrong. Of course, it's never straightforward. You might have a diversion on, and but be ready for that bump. And I think the analogy of sitting in front of class, picking your hand up, asking questions, it's about personal development. It's not always knowledge based. Having that strength, having the willpower, having that oomph to say, let's do this. Let's just crack on. Let's, and let's make this work. Because I've always personally had that I've always lifted the bar through schooling, whereby, I remember when I was doing, was it maths GCSE or I think it was maths GCSE, and I was getting a B, and I remember someone saying to me, I remember who it was, and I remember it feels like yesterday when I talk about it, and he says, ha ha ha, I'm predicted an A, you're predicted a B, and that bloody hurt. And it wasn't jealousy or anything, but it gave me that instant boost to say to my teacher, can you please help me? And she said, you should be happy. with your grade. I said, well, I'm not happy. That's why I'm asking you for help. And so she worked with me where I could improve. And I did get my maths A grade GCSE. Nowadays it's numbered, isn't it? So, and I've always lifted that bar. And I still, to this day, when it comes to work, I lift that bar. And that naturally reflects me being as a parent. I do the same with my daughter. And naturally, of course, which parent doesn't want the best for their children? And I'm forever pushing her because I know she can do it. And I do not want her to sit back and think, oh, she's going to automatically inherit everything, because that is not the case. Ultimately, I want you to work for it. I'm there to support you and guide you. But you have to put the effort in. And she knows that, which is great. And so that's very important, whether it's work colleagues, acquaintances, children. Personal development is so important. Yeah.
100%. Okay, it's a really good insight. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for this podcast. I've been your host, Mr. EPC. Big shout out to Aamana for taking the time out to speak to me and talk about her journey and give those golden nuggets of information as well. So do look out for the next podcast. And if you did like this podcast, do hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. And thank you very much for watching.
Thank you, Imran.
No problem.